Well, yeah, it was a midsummer. I didn't worry about doing a big tag for all the individuals for everyone. But yeah, well, such and such. But and I updated it and I've highlighted it. So everybody, me and Wallace went up. All right.
No, I know about a small task. Because that's where down here. We have regular blowers that we have.
I figured somebody be here tonight. Thank you.
So I can't tell you guys this because I was on the ground, my boss is sitting right here. We're in a nursing home, so there's 2 from EMS, there's 2 fire engines, and there's 2 or 3 from the school. They're all good. Woo! Woo! Who's breastfeeding? You just the same one. Too easy. What's that? Okay. Is this observations and on the
But hey, we got the reserve.
Yes, we do. They not come on.
I got you.
What are you not reading team player for?
Well, not till next week. That's fair, you know, so she's, thank you, Pete. Tattoo artist. I'm like, wow, when did you find a job? Yes. 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 She's already up.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the Morgan County Council meeting for May 4th. If you'll please stand, Vicki will lead us in prayer, Kelly will lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, we just come before you in troubled times. We ask for your guidance. We ask for your protection. We ask for special care for those in the health-related field. We ask that you be with our farmers who are planting crops. May it be a successful planting season for them and all goes well and keep them safe. Dear Lord, we just pray for our world as a whole and ask that you grant us peace and to overcome all obstacles. And all these things we pray in your precious name. Amen.
Amen. Hopefully everybody had an opportunity to read the April 6th minutes. I'd look for a motion to approve or amend.
Vicki Kevin makes a motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Thank you. Any further comments? There being none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. I'll be passing it down for signatures.
How many are remote tonight?
Dan Baskin and Dave Ziller.
First, for additional appropriations, the election.
She might kick you. She probably short fused it over again.
So this election budget that I made out a long time ago, it's gone out the window. So I kind of panicked a little bit, because I thought maybe we were gonna have an all-male election, which we're ready for that. Maybe November, I don't know. But I've spent about $20,000 on mail supplies, which we are going through quite a bit of them. I was in the negative on my budget until I talked to Josh, and I guess the county has a COVID fund. So I have the $20,000 I think I'm gonna put there, but I'm still gonna need money. We're gonna do a countywide mailer since we're changing up all the vote centers to at least one per household. There's just a lot of confusion right now. So, you know, advertising and that sort of stuff and just the unknown, I'm asking for 10,000 additional for my supply budget.
Can that still come out of the COVID account? That extra amount?
Yes, so the commissioners approved an additional request for another $50,000 to present to you all at your next meeting. There's some updated numbers, we can cover those later, but at this time, I would recommend that be. Well, no, I think you could consider her request now,
Yes.
right? Just know that we have more requests.
So we have more money, okay.
So Stephanie, you're saying 20,000, that'll be paid out of the COVID fund, but you're also wanting an additional 10,000 from us tonight, correct? Okay.
Just in case, but I know our advertising is gonna be 6,000. I got that quote today for our countywide mailer.
When will that be launched, the countywide mailer?
It should be next week. They told me it'd take about 5 days to get it together.
So I've had a lot of people think that this is gonna be really, really, really hard to find people voting for people that's not really wanting to vote and stuff. I hear like, you know, like it gets mailed out to somebody else just fills it in and hands it in. Can you tell me how that's gonna be kept from happening?
When you vote by mail, you sign an application and you're swearing. And there's an affidavit on there that you are who you say you are. We take that application, we match it up to your voter registration signature. So
Okay.
there's some matching done there, and then it's once again looked at on election day by the absentee boards.
Very good, very good. I can explain it better, thank you.
Any further questions? There being none, I look for a motion.
Vicky Kivett makes a motion that we approve an additional appropriation from County General Fund 1,000 for $10,000 in account 1,124-4211.00 election supplies.
And I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Thank
We
you,
might
Stephanie.
check on Dave.
Thank you.
Dave, can you give us your vote on that?
Stephanie, what's been the biggest hurdle so far?
Well, today was keeping up with the mail. I might have to have another absentee board down there. We had about 200 applications come in and 165 ballots come in. So those applications come in, they have to be processed same day. So we were there a little late today.
What avenues are you using to let people know that the voting day has been changed to June 2nd? Because we encountered someone just as we were coming in that was looking to come in, I mean, you know, today was not the day, but they wanted to vote, and so what are you using to get the word out?
I'm gonna do the countywide mailer, should go out next week. Facebook, I need to talk to the radio and the newspaper, which I think Keith's had an article in there. 1 or 2 of the new vote center locations.
I was just curious.
Yeah, they just, and it's on our website too.
Thank you.
I'm gonna have it 6-0-1. Dave did not respond, so I'm gonna say he abstained, but we did check in. And if he, they can give him the leniency if he wants to come back at the next meeting and tell us which way he went other than the abstention, then I'll let him do that, if it's okay with you guys.
That's fine.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Human Capital Development, Corner. Pre-trial diversion.
I believe that's me. Do you guys have good copy?
Yes, Steve, you're good.
Can't hear you, Steve.
Alright, I'll even try to turn the camera on. I don't know if that's gonna work or not. But, thanks for, allowing me to appear virtually. I'll try to keep this simple. We run our deferral applications through our Morgan County website. We built that before the county even had a website, and we had an independent contractor. We no longer use him. But last fall, when we merged and went with Office 365, pretrial deferral applications no longer showed up on Dan's website. Someone could actually submit one, but we would never see it, and it could result in somebody being inappropriately suspended. So we've been working to fix that for probably 5 months. Steve Oshman has done work that he's not been paid for in January, February, and March. And I don't have a budget how to pay. He's done the work. It's still not fixed completely. We may need to either have a new website built, merge into the county website. As you know, I'm not the most techy guy. But first thing is we gotta make sure Steve gets paid. That's just, not right that he didn't get it. We may have to, have additional funds to build a new website. I've talked to Josh about this. I know Mr. Elliott Daniels on the council and I need some help, and this isn't really a Joel Johnson deal. This is totally outside of Joel. This is a software application problem. And I can't figure out what the problem is. So that's our humble request, to at least have enough to pay for Mr. work, and then also to get us through this year or help us fix the problem.
And I can jump in and address that because I've had extensive conversations with our prosecutor as well as with Mr. Oshman. The issue is actually a mail relay issue, not per se the website, but I know I'm getting real geeky on you guys, so I apologize. But what that means is because we have a domain that is morgancounty.in.gov, but when this email is coming from a separate domain, which is the prosecutor's domain, that's creating some quirks, and the security is flagging it as spam. And so when I say the security, our Office 365 security, and so that's created some headaches, trying to, they've done a couple different workarounds, trying to work through that. So there is, as Steve mentioned, there is as our prosecutor mentioned, two Steves, as our prosecutor mentioned, this is something that they have been working on extensively. The contractor has been working on it as well. I've given my 2 cents, my opinion on it, but ultimately it is not something that has been budgeted for them, but it is something that has existed before even county had a website. So it is an important service that the prosecutor offers. If somebody gets a traffic ticket, there are ways for them to not necessarily have to go through the whole process of going through court, and so they go through the county prosecutor's website to do that. And it is an important tool, feature that they utilize. So there is some coordination that needs to happen, and it's not like we can just say, oh, don't do it. So.
How much is owed, I'm sorry, this is Kim Meredith, Steve. How much is owed to Mr. Oshman for those months of service?
I believe that I don't have the bill, Kim, I apologize, but I think there's a $200 bill, a $200 bill, and a $900 bill. So you do that, and I think it's about 13, 14. I certainly have them at the office. The bigger problem is, what are we gonna do to fix it, and how do I fix it?
Well, I guess my next question is that, why is it up? And and I'm not a geek, I'm not asking a geeky question, I'm asking a county council question. If we have an IT department, why is this outside the realm of an IT department?
I think it's software, and I think software and IT are two different things, but I'm not an expert either. That's where this gets very frustrating.
I can answer that question as well. The skill sets that are needed to manage this are skill sets that are focused on web and email servers, not something that our IT department is primarily help desk, meaning that if somebody has a problem with their Windows or a problem with their browser, they can come in, work on their computer. These are servers that don't even reside here, and even if they did reside here, frankly, this is no slight on our IT staff, this is just a different skill set. Kind of think of it using a car analogy. You can have a mechanic who's great at engines, doesn't mean he knows anything about transmissions. And that's what we're dealing with. This is a transmission issue, not an engine issue. So that's why our staff do not have the skill sets. And it wouldn't make sense to hire somebody, because these types of issues, when they do happen, you need them for a project, and then you don't need it anymore. You could go 2 years without needing someone doing something like that again.
And this $8,000, what does it represent? Is that what it would cost to create this software program that you need?
Part of our thought is that in this next year's budget, we are gonna have to, and I've talked to Josh about this, and we're gonna need to have some kind of line item, not just for pens, paper, copier, but for IT outside support. We use a lot of different applications, and we're gonna start trying to use more that aren't really just, your hardware of your computer. It has to do with software, and it has to do with systems integration. So I'm thinking that a part of that will get us through the year until we can actually budget for it next year. I couldn't tell you how much it costs to build a new website. That's where I'm totally with a blindfold on. So that's why we probably shot a little high. But, Mr. Elliott, what is that gonna cost us if we have to build a new website?
Well, I would say that this particular issue is irrelevant to your website. So you might need a new website, but this issue would not go away if you had a brand new website tomorrow. This is an email relay related issue. Again, trying not to get too technical here. So this particular issue would not go away with that. A quality website costs anywhere between $8,000 and $15,000 for what you would need.
Okay. Again, I apologize. I thought somebody said we might need a new website, but then again, it is not my bailiwick. Obviously, we just want it fixed, and we need to get it fixed right. So that's where I'm hoping to get some guidance or some help. We don't have a long list of vendors. I mean, I know Joel, I know Steve Oshman, I know VIA. I'm gonna need some help figuring out who it is you contract with.
Steve, this is Kelly Akala. Do you have somebody that you've already that you're looking at contracting with to provide these services to you, or are you really coming because you don't know what to do? To find somebody to help fix this?
We had somebody set it up, but he charged $100 a year. I don't know, I know where to take my car, I know where to get a roof put on. I have no clue where you go to fix this or who you talk to. I mean, I know that in talking to Dan and others, it's a prosecutor issue, so I guess it falls in my lap. But I certainly would welcome Joel, Daniel, your input, Kelly, because we just want the problem fixed.
Steve, it's Vicki Kivett. Have you talked to any other counties? Have they been through this before?
I have not. Our system is different than theirs. That's what you find. There is no statewide one-size-fits-all for prosecutors. computers on websites. I have not. I mean, there's a state IT department, but I don't know if they'll help. I could try asking that, but you know, this is where it's such a niche. There's something not working with our system, and I couldn't tell you where in the line the problem is.
And I'm not trying to overstep here. I've tried to really be cognizant of everyone's needs and just kind of, I'm not the IT support for our county, so I've been given advice and not really jumped in there on this project specifically. But I do know what would fix the problem. And that is and this is probably where Steve, where our prosecutor was thinking about a new website. Instead of using the current setup as is, which was designed a long time ago, if a simple, I say simple, but if a application, and when I say an application, you know when you go to a website and you fill out, hey, I want to buy XYZ item, you could hire a vendor, could be Telemagine, it could be whomever, to create a application. That application could reside either on the prosecutor's website or on the morgancounty.in.gov website. And that would solve that problem because then you would work around the relay issue and you would go directly to the database itself. I did jump in there and at least start, just as a courtesy, gave some advice about how they could start storing the data so it wouldn't get lost. Again, I'm trying to be very thoughtful. I know what I would do to solve the problem in my profession, but I'm trying not to do that. I'm just trying to give some general advice. But I think that's probably where Steve is thinking a new website. I think more of an application that would be written would probably solve the problem. You wouldn't have to worry about that anymore because you could avoid the email relay issue. And again, I'm trying not to get real techie, guys. I'm just trying to be very generic without getting too detailed, nor do I want to spec out the project. But I think that might be a good way to solve the problem without having to expend resources. Because I do know this. I do know that Telemagine and Office 360, Microsoft's Office 365 tech support have all been involved with this. And frankly, there's a whole lot of saying, hey, it's not on our end, so it must be their end type of conversation, which never helps us as the client get anywhere because everyone thinks it's somebody else's responsibility.
Any other questions?
So Steve, I don't think we're hearing an exact need for money until we actually figure out what's going on. What's the $8,000 gonna do? Don't you just really need the money to pay the gentleman that's been working rather than the full $8,000?
Yeah, we were budgeting kind of with a blindfold, thinking we needed a new website and thinking we needed money to get through the year, but certainly we shot high. What we really need to do is pay Steve Oshman, and I don't know if he's got an outstanding bill for April and May. I mean, at some point, maybe I should tell Steve to stand down trying to fix it, regroup, and then with Mr. Elliott's recommendation or a plan to fix it. I apologize, I don't have the exact claims. I don't know if Joel or Dan have them. I know they floated around between auditor and prosecutor. I can certainly get them fairly quickly. They're what Mr. Oshman said, but I'm pretty sure it's in that one large bill and two small bills.
So I think what I'm hearing, and you guys say if you agree, I'm hearing what we do is we need to pay the bill to help the gentleman that's helping you right now, and then you need to have him stand down and talk to some other people, then come back with us with a figure that it's gonna take to fix what it is you were shooting for and in the end result here. Do you agree with that?
I do. That is correct.
Okay, but right now, we really don't know what they owe, and so does anybody have an idea how we would make sure he gets the money that pays that guy?
Is Dan on there with us?
Ask Dan.
Ask Dan, he has a total to date of.
Good point, thank you. Never thought about that.
Dan, can you hear that question? Do you have a total to date for Steve Soniga's bills by chance? For Telemagine? minutes, you need to call in from his phone, while you could hear with audio, so let's give him a minute. While we're waiting, Annette has called in, and so when you guys are ready, you can circle back to her.
Steve, it's Vicki Kivett again. Do you think that $2,500 will cover Steve Oshman to this point?
I think so. Vicki, I'm looking at his bills now, and, one of them is $855. The nice thing about working from home is I have two computers. One of them is $190. So $190 and $855, and then the third one is $190. So if you add $855, $190, and $190, that should be our total.
What if we say 1,500, just in case?
I would make a motion, if there's no further questions, to appropriate $1,500.
We have a motion on the floor to appropriate $1,500 from the Free Trial Diversion Fund. Do I have a second?
I'll break it a second. I don't care.
Vicki and Paul. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Thanks, Steve.
And Steve, if you would like to give me a call. Yeah, Steve, if you'd like to give me a call, then you, myself, and Mr. Oshman can all sit down together, maybe spec out something that might work out, you know, be less, that would be more stable for you.
I will certainly do that. Thank you.
We will circle back around to the corner. Annette, would you like to present your request?
Do what now?
Would you like to present your request for the new vehicle?
I would like to present it. I apologize. I was finishing up a call and I missed some of the calls. I apologize for not being on before now. You guys got the email of my request. It's the total price of the vehicle that right now is $52,140. So that vehicle is a 2020 Chevy Silverado 2500 four-wheel drive with a crew cab. The reason that it has to be a 2500 is because of the bed length. If they don't make it, they don't make that vehicle with a bed length over 8 feet, except in that vehicle itself. Josh and I did talk earlier today and Friday, and we were supposed to be getting a call back from the woman that's been working with us from Enterprise. But I don't need it to be a diesel truck, and that added, I think it was $9,000 if I'm not mistaken, Josh. And it added $9,000 to it, so I think the price of the vehicle actually will come down somewhat. But the reason that I'm requesting it, and I know that I sent you guys an email, but just so you can understand a little bit, right now, if I have to go on a call, and we've discussed this before, if I have to go on a call, I like to respond, obviously, from where I am and not have to drive to Martinsville to get my transport vehicle. I have another person that goes and gets the transport vehicle. But I use my own gas, wear and tear on my own vehicle, and I really think that this is something going forward that the coroner's office is going to need. And the reason that for the truck is that I really feel like with the COVID especially, you know, we have to share the same airspace when we transport bodies in a van or any other type of vehicle. So it makes it nicer, you know, that they cannot have to share the same airspace as us. And that's why I chose the truck option rather than a van. So I don't know any questions. I think the price of the truck will go down, but I don't have the exact pricing on it, unfortunately, tonight.
Questions?
I did notice that, you can get a 1500 that has an 8-foot bed, but it doesn't have a crew cab, it's just a regular regular cab. Would that be an issue? Does it need to be a crew cab?
It would be nice to have the crew cab just because we're gonna be able to carry some supplies, in the vehicle, in the back of the vehicle, with the storage, but it would be nice to have the crew cab to be able to carry any other equipment that we might need. You know, there's a lot of times that we show up on a call and, you know, we have to get into somebody else's vehicle in order to drive up to the scene. So, you know, just to have that extra space is what I was thinking about with the crew cab.
Okay.
I'm not saying I'm disagreeing with this, but guys, if we make this purchase, we're now saying we're gonna pay for the gas, and we're gonna pay for the maintenance and everything that goes along with this vehicle. Because this is gonna be a county-owned vehicle instead of a personal vehicle where she's using her own personal vehicle, so this, the information is gonna cost us more.
Well, I would think she's collecting mileage and all.
I don't think that would pay for the gas and everything. I'm not sure, 41 cents a mile or whatever it is. I don't know, I'm just saying that I think it's gonna cost us more in the long run. I'm not saying I'm against it, I'm just saying it's gonna cost us more. Do you have an opinion with that? Annette?
Well, I mean, obviously, it's gonna cost the county more, but I think anybody else, in this position would have long since, you know, the problem is everybody before me, we've talked about this several times in the past, everyone before me was a county employee. So they were able to drive their police car to the scene, every coroner, you know, it was Brian, then Terry Weddle, Brian Ringer, Dan Downing, Gary Long. Every single one of those had a county-owned vehicle that they drove to and from calls. They did not drive their personal vehicles on calls. So I am the first coroner that this became an issue. It's kind of like everything else that, you know, that wasn't an issue before. So, you know, it's gonna cost the county more money, but I think it should have been long since before now that I was claiming mileage and that sort of thing, but it's just so difficult to keep track of that on a daily basis.
I wanna make sure you understand, I'm not saying you don't need a vehicle, I'm just making some comments about my thoughts. So, just going from there.
Oh, I understood that, I just was trying to explain it, I guess, but so that everybody else understood it, that, you know, everybody else has had a vehicle except for me, and, you know, it's my own fault for continuing to go on as long as I did, but I just feel like for the next coroner, it needs to be, especially if it's someone that's not already a county employee that has a take-home vehicle, it needs to be something that we address now.
Annette, I don't have a problem with the vehicle, I have a problem without seeing the sticker or what we're getting, or some better numbers. So if you could get those, I'm gonna either abstain or vote no until I get those numbers, and then I would go forward. And then we'd also talked about alternative funding or reimbursement, depending on how the federal government views some of the reimbursements that we'll be applying for. So I would still, I've not heard back from Dan or anybody on the possibility of some of this maybe being subsidized through the COVID reimbursement. So I'd still like to pursue that angle if that's a possibility, and I'd also like to see exactly what we're getting before I vote on it.
Annette, this is Kim Meredith.
Well, I can, email, I'm sorry, Kim, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna ask, the van that we currently have, that you mentioned that you have to come back to pick up to go on a run, what year is that van? Do you know?
It's a 2009,
That's what I thought.
and it has been in the shop several times in the past year and a half, 2 years. It, you know, that's gonna be something else, I think, ultimately, that we need to look at, in the future on, you know, replacing it, just because of age.
I agree.
So, I mean, the thing is, we need to have a vehicle that's a corner that self-drive, and then also, I think there needs to be a separate transport vehicle. I just feel like maybe that should be part of $975, is it the aftermarket stuff that they're doing to make it a transport vehicle with a cab and all of the supplies in the back?
So that 15,000, or roughly 15,000 net, it's Kim again, would that be considered what is needed to separate yourself or your workers from a body that had, say, been a victim of the COVID virus?
Well, I think the whole vehicle, I like Brian's idea on it being something we can look out for reimbursement, because I really feel like this has been prompted because of this virus. You know, I think about Mike and Debbie, who are in their 70s, and, you know, I can't use them for transports on these COVID patients because I don't want them to share in the same airspace, so that's really why other things came up.
And I'm glad Brian mentioned that, because those are things we're gonna need to look at going forward, because I don't think we're finished with these sorts of viruses and things. So I myself, I agree, I'm not opposed to the truck. I'd just like to see some paperwork in front of me, like Dave Rogers would present with my 5 options.
Sorry, Dad.
You got some bronze in front of you.
And I will say that, this is Daniel, by the way, I do see and agree with you that it doesn't make sense, and when you're going on runs, that you have to go back to your location and then, you know, pick up the vehicle. So I don't really have a problem with that, but I agree with both the councilwoman and our council president. If we can see a few more numbers, maybe with a couple different options, just to give us a better idea, spreadsheet form. The idea I'm totally supportive of. I just want to see a few more numbers, that's all.
Okay, so that would be, I would put those at the next meeting, is that what you're saying, next month?
Yes, I'm looking at next month if you can get the numbers to us.
Once you get the numbers, email them so I can look at them. But we can vote on it at the next meeting. We can vote on it at the next meeting, but as soon as you get the numbers, let us know.
Okay, and then I also, with the email, I'll attach, some video and also pictures of the Boone County Coroner's, truck that is gonna be almost identical to what I'm looking at and requesting, so that you guys will have an idea of what it looks like.
Thank you.
Can I add a little bit? So obviously Annette has been spearheading this charge, but she asked that I assist her with it because it's going through the enterprise fleet vehicle management the county makes use of now. And one thing we learned through this process that we didn't know going into it, Annette laid out the specs that she thought was appropriate for her department. The reason they came back with the diesel is because there's 2 options. Either there's something we need now, and this was one that met her specs they were able to find at a dealership already made, versus we have a time to wait and we can have one manufactured for us. And so that was something that was new. We just found that out Friday afternoon, which is why, and that's waiting for some revised quotes as well. So I just want to throw that in there.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Josh.
With that said, I would look for some type of motion on the coroner's request for a vehicle, whether it be a yay, a nay, or a table.
Motion that we table it to our next meeting.
I have a motion on the floor to table this request. Do I have a second?
Vicky Kivett makes that second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah. 7 days of muted, right? Okay, thank you, Annette. Next on the agenda is the Plan Commission. I spoke with her via email. She asked for permission not to be here, and I told her I was fine with it, and I'm sure you guys were too. I had asked her questions such as making sure that there wasn't availability from another office or somewhere else, and to her knowledge, there was not. So I told her I did not foresee the need for her to be here for a transfer of the circumstances.
It's not an additional, it's a transfer.
Correct.
We do that all
Right.
the time. So if you're looking for a motion,
I am.
I'd like to, make the motion for $1,000 from 1,127,4176 Planning Commission Board to 1,127,441 Equipment Furniture of $1,000.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Elliot Caldwell, second.
I have a first and a second. Thank you. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. 6-10. Harrison Township Fire District 2021 budget discussion.
Hello, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Sean Harris. And present with me tonight from the Harrison Township Fire Board is Mike Jackson and John Kennedy. And I've also asked Chief Funkhauser from Barnesville Fire Department, and is it Deputy Chief? Make sure I don't butcher that. Is it Pruitt? Is it Mike Pruitt? I was told it's been fairly tumultuous. So I was told that I needed to appear tonight and kind of explain to you where we're at and kind of go from there. So I was appointed to the board in January of this year. I'm new to this, so any insight, guidance, I'm all ears. So shortly after taking the position on the board, we entered into contract talks for a potential territory with Madison Township Fire Department. When we did our public meetings, there were some things that come to light that were kind of disturbing. Some things that I learned, and I will tell you up front, I'm not a firefighter. So some of this was a bit over my head. Thankfully, there's some firemen in the room. But we had learned that we were having some issues with our apparatus. All of our apparatus was very aged. I was told the acronym was an EVT certification. From what I understand, just not anybody can work on fire apparatus. So it's a specialty type job. You have to have several certifications to make sure what's being looked at is safe, we're in compliance. Moving forward in this public presentation, I learned that we are apparently in need of a new pumper, and that the self-contained breathing apparatus that the firemen should be using to keep them safe had not been tested. Apparently we were in violation of OSHA, from what I understand. I learned that our hose was 35 years old and had not been tested. So all of our basic tools and equipment need to be tested and inspected. Apparently that's not happened when records were asked for from Chief Lang. Apparently there weren't any provided because there are no records. So all I can do is apologize. I'm new to this. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that is where we are at. So the talks ultimately ended being tabled by the Madison Township Board. That was in the latter part of March. So that was kind of, if you will, dead in the water. So I started fielding phone calls from concerned people about our ISO rating. And from what I understand, that governs what homeowners pay for insurance. There's different levels. Again, there's some firemen in the room that feel free to jump in there, but I called John Beard, who's a fire protection analyst for ISO, and was informed that somewhere around December of 2019, the fire department, someone was signing for certified letters that were uncorresponded to. We were deemed to be non-compliant. So I didn't exactly know what that meant either. From what I understand, it could be a plethora of reasons, from the equipment we just talked about to training records. So we were in danger of going to a level 10 for our entire township. That would be very costly to the people that live there, and it's just not safe, to be frank. So I immediately sent him something in writing, stating that the board had no knowledge, we didn't. That we would try to move forward, figure out something for the betterment of everybody. At that point in time, I reached out to the chief of Bartlesville Fire Department, who was nice enough to be here tonight, and explained to him basically that I need help. We are in a bad spot here. This is not good. It's not fair to anybody. There's, just to remind everyone, there's an elementary school that's right next to a fire department that's not even useful at this point. So, we talked and understood that both boards would ultimately make the decision. We wanted to see if it was feasible to even move forward before, I ultimately appeared in front of their, district board themselves. Chief Funkhauser was given permission to formally enter into the potential for a contract with Harrison Township Fire Board. He was given that go-ahead. At that point in time, we were able to put our heads together. I got a lot of input from Commissioner Goodwin, and I thank him very much for that. He reviewed the contract. They were nice enough to continue services. If his board approves it, is it May 13th, sir? May 13th. That would become effective for July 1st through December of this year. Now, having said that, to be fair to him, it's very costly to operate a 24/7 career fire department that's right around the corner from us. There's just no way they can do it for $72,000 a year, which is our current contract. I think the $100,000 mark is fair. This is where I get a little confused, so feel free to help me there. From what I understand, the appropriate term is there have been funds appropriated, but not, or maybe levied and not appropriated. I'm not sure what I'm trying to say there, but there's like $85,000 from what I understand. This is not the year to raise taxes with all that's going on. It wouldn't be fair to anybody. It's not fair to not have a fire department. So, I would be asking at some point, I should say we would, for $28,000 to enter into 2021 for a year. So that would be $100,000 total for the year of 2021. I was trying to do it sooner than later, out of fairness to him, so he can build it into his budget. Obviously, he's encompassing much more responsibility. He has been completely open, honest, upfront. He's phenomenal to work with. So that's kind of where we're at there. I would like to reiterate to, or I should remind the board, I guess Director Warren has already approached you about a mutual aid agreement for paramedics. So when we have issues, are you not familiar with that? Okay, so let me back up. So there is an agreement in place from Director Warren for Warren County EMS with Chief Funkhauser for a paramedic when we're in need. So they've been doing that anyway for mutual aid. So I kind of felt like with it being the closest fire department geographically and being manned, it was kind of a no-brainer. It does save a large portion of our township for our ISO rating. There are going to be those that are outside the 5-mile radius of the fire department. I can't fix that one. I wish I could. I'm faced with a building that I don't own. I shouldn't say the board doesn't own. I don't know how I'm supposed to sit here in good faith and ask you for public money for standby when we don't even have a certificate of occupancy. It's not even finished. So I'm at a loss, to be honest. I'm kind of embarrassed, to be perfectly honest with you, but we did meet as a board on April 23rd. We submitted the contract from Bartlesville, and it was voted 4-0. We did have one person that was not in attendance. They never attend. Again, May 13th tells the tale, if you will, but I believe there is a show of faith. I'm sure he can answer any operational question that I can't. To put things in perspective, we had Morgan County 911 received a call on April 9th at 9:55 in the morning for a potential house fire on Crooked Creek Drive. It's the southern portion of our township, so it's almost a green. So units were immediately dispatched, and just to kind of put things in perspective, so at 10:05, again, we were dispatched at 9:55. I shouldn't say we. They were dispatched at 9:55. Engine 31 from Madison Township arrived at 10:05. So it's a pretty good response from Kitchen Road. Chief Mooney thankfully sent 2 tankers from Green Township that arrived on scene at 10:07. So at 10:10, 15 minutes after the dispatch, our own fire truck from our own station, marked en route. So, that's kind of the problem. White River Township marked on scene at the same time, and for those of you that aren't familiar, they've had to move their station much farther north into Johnson County. I'm not exactly sure where. I'm sure Chief Funkhauser could probably answer that if somebody is curious. And at 10:14, 19 minutes after the call went out, our engine out of our own department arrived on scene. So, in our contract that we are currently in, we have a mutual aid agreement. It's a mandate that we have mutual aid with all area departments. I'm working at my other job, for those of you that don't know, I'm the sheriff's deputy here in the county. And I'm thinking to myself, why is Portersville not on scene? This just doesn't make sense. They're the closest. So I called Chief Funkhauser and I sadly put him on the spot, and I apologize, but so I asked the question, and to come to find out, we don't even have a mutual aid agreement, but we're a personality conflict, not on his end. So we're in violation of our own contract. Our contract states that we're supposed to stay up with our inspections and our equipment. We're just not there. And I guess to close, I've been a policeman for 30 years. I'm issued body armor, I wear it every day, I do the best I can do. But that body armor has an expiration date, and there's a reason for that. And I am not the person to sit here and put a young lady or a young man into harm's way, into a potential fire, and their breathing apparatus not work, their pump fail, their hose not work. I can't do that in good conscience. So I'm sorry, I'm not that person. I think our board feels the same way. That's kind of a nutshell as to where we're at and why we're gonna be asking for additional funds. If there's any questions, I'll try to answer it honestly, and if I don't know the answer, I'll try to get you the answer. And again, Chief Funkhauser was good enough to be here tonight. If anybody's got any questions for him, I'm sure that he would answer. So I appreciate everybody's time.
How do you propose alerting your township residents of the change?
So I got with Scott Hamilton, our 911 director, and from what I understand, jump in here, Chief, there is I always butcher this, is it locution?
I think she's actually asking about alerting the actual.
You mean, are you as far as the dispatch?
No, your residents of Harrison Township.
Well, we had a public meeting. The only feedback that I've received so far has been positive. I'm sorry, I misunderstood what you were asking.
That's fine.
So, to this, I mean, that's why I'm here. That's why we had our meeting, was advertised. No one showed up. Chief Allison, Josh did show up, not Dave, but Josh, and said that he appreciated me being transparent and coming to him prior to the meeting and explaining to him where we were at, why we were there. I do realize there were some things posted on social media that I can't control from the fire department that was completely inaccurate. Again, all I can do is apologize, but the feedback that I have received, in fact, Chief Funkhauser and I spoke today, he actually received some positive feedback. I think our response times will be greatly improved. There is no doubt we'll have better equipment. It's gonna be properly tested. I'll sleep better at night. I wish there were some people out that were not outside of the 5-mile range, but I just can't fix that one. So I personally think it's a no-brainer. I think it's the right decision. I think it keeps about 350 kids at the 10 Waverly Elementary safer. And I quite frankly think they deserve better than what they've been given. So, and I don't blame any of you at all. It's just, I think, honestly, 20-some years, I've been with the county for 28 now, I think 20-some years of problems are coming to the surface, and here we are, and I am by no means perfect. So I am just trying to navigate the waters as best I can and be upfront and honest with you. That's where we're at.
Well, I've seen some things on social media, and it's obvious that people that make some of the comments aren't in the loop as far as all the past concerns. I don't want to call them problems. And I mean, some of us on this board have dealt with this probably 15 years. Yeah, I think it's a huge step in the right direction, but I do wish there was a way that you could alert your residents, whether it be a mailbox to mailbox drive or Waverly Festival or something, and just let them understand.
And I can appreciate that. I can try to look into something. I mean, we're limited on funds. We're trying to improve that as we go forward and be just completely transparent with you. And like I said, I'm open for any suggestions, but I think if people get better informed and they're better educated, I think, honestly, it's a no-brainer. I mean, it's just a much better fit for everyone involved. I know I've talked to Chief Lang of Madison Township and Chief Mooney. I have not been able to speak with, the Brooklyn Fire Chief, but, there was no opposition there. Obviously, they're not trying to be derogatory towards anybody, but I can assure you there are no hard feelings. And I think they were looking forward to having fire engines show up instead of a white SUV to fight a fire. So that's kind of where we're at. I know that's blunt, but.
I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
Has the ISO rating changed yet? Or
Well-
you've just been notified that you're not in compliance to keep the current rating?
Our current is 6 and a 9. From what I understand, he had to get permission from his legal department to give me, for lack of a better term, a grace period. And I do know Bargersville's is level 5, is that correct, Chief? So we would actually improve part of the township. Sadly, part of the township's gonna go from a 9 to a 10, just because they're outside that 5-mile radius. But I will be honest with you, from working today with I-69 and Waverly Road and the way things are torn up, it's probably easier to get there from Bargersville right now than going down Whiteland Road, than it is trying to get out of Waverly Road. You can't even get to Waverly Road. You have to go up to Whiteland Road and back and around. And then to make matters worse with our current sanitary system.
I just wondered because, I mean, that does play a large effect on your residents' insurance, costs. So I just wondered what it was currently and if it had changed.
It will go in some areas from a 9 to a 10, but to be honest, I think we were heading there anyway. If you're deemed non-compliant and you're not answering certified letters, I'm assuming we have a problem.
Yeah, my day job's insurance,
Oh, then you're, better than I can assure you, so.
So can I ask for a little bit of clarification, because you said a lot of things, but are you stating that Harrison Township the fire department there will be?
Well, so
No
the Harrison
competition.
Township is a district, unlike a lot of townships with a trustee. So we simply are the taxing unit, again, correct me if I'm wrong, and then we try to seek the best fire protection we can for our residents.
I hear that, okay.
So.
You have been contracting with a
We've
private
been-
corporation,
right.
as a nonprofit corporation.
Okay.
The Harrison Township,
Will still be in?
no,
Okay,
no, that they're gonna stop that contract and they're gonna contract with Bargersville.
that's good, that's what I was trying to
That's,
hear.
Thank you, I apologize.
and I will say, in my full-time job of Madison Township, obviously I'm the clerk there, knowing the expense that it costs to run a fire department, I see it day in and day out, paid a ton of bills today. This is a really good deal. This is going to provide a much better service for those residents. This is just a good deal.
Thank you, Sean, I didn't mean to put you into something that
No,
I wasn't asking correctly, but.
I have come to the conclusion long ago that honesty is the best policy,
Right.
and
I think a lot of us here will tell you, we feel much more comfortable with what we're hearing coming from you tonight than we have in a long time
I am.
with Harrison Township.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate that, and I will work with anybody, I'm just one person, but I think you'll find our board is just, sometimes you get in over your head and it's not your fault, and the best you can do is seek help, and quite frankly, Bargersville has been a breath of fresh air for all of us.
I think you have a couple guys on your board that's been very, very active with you to help you get it to this point. And I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot, and I appreciate the township, Mr. Chief back here and you said your name was Bob?
Yeah,
Hauser?
yeah, it's Eric Hauser.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, with your mask on, I can't see your lips move, so. Thank you for being here and helping explain.
Well, I will say I do appreciate the transparency. That's actually been, I think, the biggest issue that a couple of years ago this council had questions about. And I will commend this board for its transparency, for the work that you guys have done. You've got a great partner, and those of us, well, potential partner here until it gets finalized. And I will say those who spent quite a bit of time in Waverly, Bargersville is just a natural choice. Bargersville and Waverly have been like siblings, very much interconnected for many, many years. So it makes total sense to me.
Well, and it's important, I'm not sure if I said this earlier, but without the certificate of occupancy, we can't house fire 24/7. So to have them ready to respond, and as soon as their toe hits the ground, they're in turnout gear and ready to fight a fire, it's so much better than what we're looking at now.
Yes.
It's a full-time fire department, correct?
Yes, it is.
So-
I'll come up here so I can answer your question.
So I think that's also a huge upgrade for the, not that they're, my father's a retired volunteer fireman, but being able to say, okay, we have people right there ready that second is gonna just be a huge difference in response time.
Just to clarify, we're a combination department, so I just want you to know, we have 40 full-time employees, we also have around 40 to 50 part-time employees as well, so a total of about 90 employees that work for us. We run on average 16 personnel every single day between the two stations.
Chief, could you please tell us the apparatus that's available to us?
Yeah, and then currently, I mean, we're gonna be looking at different operations as we move forward if this deal does get done. But right now at Station 2, we do have a heavy rescue that's sitting there. We have an engine with 1,000 gallons of water that's sitting there. That's it's also staffed most days ALS, so we have paramedic on the engine as well. I can't tell you that the rescue will always stay there. There's a chance that we may be moving it back down to ones and maybe putting a tanker or something else out there as well. So we're kind of looking at this whole deal right now, just trying to see what makes the most sense for us. We'll probably redistrict some of our lines too, if this does go through the thing. So that will be available for those areas as well.
This makes total sense. I think it's a great deal. It sounds like a great deal, and it sounds like everyone's been working really hard to come up with something that makes sense. I commend all of you for that.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks for the
Long time
information.
coming, it really
Appreciate
is.
it.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So I guess I have a question, and I'm new at this. So when we need the actual, to get into the funds that are there, I assume I just come back and he would like to know, the chief would like to know around August, so do I come back around July?
So you won't need those funds until January.
Right, but we would like to have it.
So when you prepare this year, that 2021 budget, which will be this year, that's how you'll budget it for that amount. There won't be an additional appropriation step.
And you'll come to us in the August meeting, like many do. We have our budget hearings and present that budget to us in August, so that it'll be ready in January. It won't be, as you said, it won't be anything additional. It'll be, here's my budget, and we will discuss it. And if I know me.
You guys have worked through that, right? You can guide him on that.
Feel free. No, I want to say, I think what they're looking for is just kind of an assurance that you guys are pleased with this, and that this is something that's gonna go forward, so that way, come August, when he's looking at his budget for next year, it's something that he can kind of plan on himself also. If that makes sense to you.
$100,000 does not give me any heartburn whatsoever. I'm very comfortable with that, and I do know that as has been said, it's already been appropriated, so the funds are already there. We don't have to increase any taxes to the residents. Nobody wants to do that right now. So all in all, I think that this works good.
It's not been appropriated, but it's been levied.
I'm sorry, it's been levied, not appropriated.
I don't, speaking for myself and what I'm hearing, so correct me if I'm wrong, is to give them the reinsurance that they're seeking. We see no problems at this point.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for me?
Just make sure you find that date in August to come forward and give us an update for the amount you need and present it to us, and if you can, kind of outline it so it makes sense to all of us as we read it when we go through the things. So if you print it out and send it to us, then we don't have all of us thinking mostly the same thing, you know, one or two words a little bit different. So if you do that, it sounds like it's a go.
The county auditor will be forwarding those budget forms to you.
You don't send them directly.
Yeah, right. And then you turn it back to the auditor and he sees that we get it.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
So-
you.
And always reach out to Dan Baston in the auditor's office when any questions. He is a truly a blessing to Morgan County.
Thank you all. I know you are several quarters of the COVID-19.
But which is tougher, being here or being the deputy?
And I think it's a standing ovation.
Council, Dan Baston would like to make a comment.
We're all fired. You're fired.
Go ahead, Dan.
It shows that you are unmuted.
This is like the other singer
waiting on, Dan. But you're trying to get hold of Dan, right? Okay. Josh sent out an email, just shortly after 4 o'clock today, outlining some of the steps that the commissioners voted on and discussed at their meeting on opening up county business. So I encourage all council to get hold of those emails so that we're all on the same page. I'm not going to try to paraphrase them, or it was a rather lengthy meeting this morning, so I appreciate the commissioners taking the time to think that out and come up with a game plan, and hopefully the virus does not make a comeback and we can continue to progress and go forward to reopen up county governments.
Josh, have those been sent out already, the emails?
Yeah, 4 o'clock today.
Yeah.
Also, while we're waiting on Mr. Baston to call in, we wait no longer.
Got you up to the microphone.
Okay, I just want to tell the council that for Harrison Township Fire District, the process will be that they will include in their budget for 2021 and through the budget process the sum, the amount of need for the contract next year. And then the council, that will be brought before the council during budget adoption and for the county council to approve. That there's no additional or anything that needs to be this year.
Correct.
Correct.
We're on the same page.
Okay. And also, let me ask about the reimbursement for COVID grants. The guidance that I've been given for expenses to be reimbursed for COVID grants is that, first of all, the expense has to occur between March 1 and December 31. The expense has to not been budgeted in the 2020 budget. And the expense must be directly related to COVID. So I think it's a little questionable whether or not the coroner's vehicle could be claimed as a reimbursement, because my understanding from her that this is a need that has existed for some time. It's been probably amplified with the COVID situation, but it's a need that I don't know that you can legitimately say that it's directly COVID related. But that's just my opinion.
Maybe the county attorney can write a fluent letter of appeal on isolating the product in the back versus having it contained within the confines of the van. That would be the only angle I could see on that.
Which we have to clear.
My understanding that's something that you really want to have regardless. I mean, no one wants to be in that. So,
And I agree, whether we get reimbursed or not, I don't blame them even if they're double bagged. Anything else, Mr. Baston?
I believe that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Hope you're feeling better. Now, do you want to make some comments about the COVID-19 summary?
Okay, the last meeting you all had, like I said, I just want to try and keep you in the loop with where we're at for items that we've been spending money on related to coronavirus. Again, we know that not all these things will get reimbursed from the federal government. We're trying to keep as many of these things in one line item that you all created for us, the COVID-19 line item, so that we make that easier. That process, as we mentioned at the last meeting, will go through EMA for all county agencies, other agencies like Marksville will have to do their own. But Mark Toomey and Tori and Davey are doing a great job communicating with everyone. But to date, we've spent $77,392, like Stephanie shared tonight. We will have more coming because she has extra election items. So we know this isn't stopping, which is why, we have requested an additional 50,000, but we do see it slowing down.
Any questions? On behalf of the Warren County Council, I'd like to recognize something that started back in May 5th of 1984. Mr. Rogers and his crew of correctional officers are recognized this week for their dedication and hard work. It goes without saying, I'm fortunate enough to check them out on the scene for 10 minutes while the police officer takes them down, but you guys have to deal with them 24/7 for as long as they're in there. So I would like to personally thank you, and on behalf of the Morgan County Council, we'd like to thank you for your appreciation. Is there any other business? Okay, you can't okay. It was brought to my attention that we will be losing a dear friend who makes us toe the line and has for the 22 or 23 years that I've set up here. I'd like to consider him a friend, but he's also one of those friends that if I get out of line, he's quick to correct me. And he has the power of the pen. So you don't ever want to get on Mr. Keith Rhodes' bad side, but it's been brought to our attention that he will be seeking retirement, and this is his last county council meeting that you'll be covering.
For now, they may bring me back in the spring or later this year, but.
Keith, did you take your own picture and put it in the paper? And
No, I record spectacles. I try not to become one.
Well, Keith, for a group that, and someone who's been up here as long as I have, we don't get very well, our meetings aren't well attended. So hopefully by going onto the internet and changing some of the things that we've done in the last few meetings, hopefully more of the citizens will be able to watch us. But I appreciate you taking our story to the readers over all these years, and I'd like to say thank you.
Thank you, Keith.
So you guys do pretty good. For a group of people that work part-time, you do really a good job trying to keep up on everything.
How come you don't always say that in the paper?
Just you, Paul, just you.
Good point. Thanks, Keith.
I read your articles and I think, how did you grasp all that? Because I don't see you taking notes. You don't have a recorder over there that I see.
I've got a photographic memory.
I'm just amazed that all that we toss around and you get it going in the paper.
It's all in the Diet Coke.
In the what?
Lots of Diet Coke.
Oh.
He's got a recorder.
Be careful, guess we got one to do on you.
He's got a recorder in his shirt.
Any other business to come before the council?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
We have a motion on the floor to adjourn, and we have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you for attending.
Thank you all.
He's not very good. And they turn it on social media.
And I didn't cut you guys down, did I?
No. Excuse me.
Josh,
Yeah,
I still can't work tomorrow, I'm okay.
Sean, you know where it came from. You know where the cutting